Hello, everybody, and welcome to the local comic show. It's been so long since I've done one of these. Because honestly, I think there's been a need for a change in the format for quite some time. Just me kind of talking about the week's comics without anybody to bounce off of. It's been kind of flat for me. I don't know about you. So what I'm wanting to do with this show going forward is I'm going to go live on weeks when there's a lot to talk about. I'm hoping to do it about once a month, or if there's something wild happens like this week, and really dig into some stuff happening in the world of comics. I'll be giving some recommendations. I won't be going over like all of the week's new books like I have before, and I am actually going to be doing more content like that on more of our Instagram, our TikTok. Gonna really utilize that, and Facebook platforms and around this. Maybe experiment with YouTube Shorts, because we're all doing content, baby. But yeah, it's been some time since I've been able to do one of these. Some have been due to family stuff. Others have been due to just a sheer lack of time. Today was a wild one. I've been waiting, my goodness, for last week's DCU product for a long time. And finally this morning it showed. Now this is after having contacted Universal last week. They're the folks who get us our DC Comics. Talking to them about where the shipment was, because there wasn't really any updates. And then on about Thursday or so, it said it arrived Wednesday, Thursday. It arrived in Edmonton, and then it just sort of sat in Edmonton. It didn't go on a truck. It didn't get out for delivery. It just kind of sat there. And so on Friday, when box was delivered, I ended up finding it where Camp Park moved to, because in a new facility. And that is actually one of the reasons why things were delayed this week. Campar's got this new facility, and in moving, they've learning some new processes of the new building, and they are behind. But the weird part was they were sending things out that were arriving just fine, but there's that chunk that arrived sort of in between that was just sitting and waiting, and I could not get last week's DC stuff. It was incredibly frustrating. I was getting calls all the time from folks wondering, oh, has that arrived yet? Has it arrived yet? Has it arrived yet? Well, I'm happy to tell you all that we have last week's DC stuff. We have this week's DC stuff. We have all but one big box of our Image and other independent books. So there's a small batch of missing books that should be arriving to the store tomorrow morning, and ready for the afternoon. So if you want absolutely everything, definitely wait out for that. But also, as all of you know, this weekend is Free Comic Book Day. It'll be on Saturday. And as a bunch of you will also know, the Free Comic Book Day proceedings here at Variant Edition are pretty low key. We just sort of have a day that we get to see folks, talk with folks, give away a bunch of free comics. And what we've heard of feedback that a lot of stores in the city do sort of big deals, and that's really cool. I really like that there's sort of all the flavors. But what we've heard from a contingent of a lot of people, especially folks with some who are neuroatypical or have neuroatypical children, that are kind of more subdued when they can actually go and browse things, and there's not a crush of people, and it's not all tense and whatnot. There's a bit of room to move around and all that kind of stuff. Is really cool. So we are always going to stick to something like that, just a Variant Edition's chill as Free Comic Book Day. That's something that you will find here. I should actually start marketing it something like that. It's just going to be a calm time. You can grab some stuff, you can have a chat, and generally speaking, everything should be pretty low key and easy going. So that is the goal there. In the meantime, we've got a whole bunch of comics that have gone on the shelf. This week it would have been a little less than most because it is the 5th Wednesday of the month, which usually means not a lot of stuff happening. The publishers kind of spread out publishing schedule, and the fifth weekend tends to be pretty butts. But yeah, like I said, since we have last week's DC stuff here, finally, like Absolute Martian Manhunter 2, I was given a preview of it, and I didn't want to read it until I had it in my hands, and oh man, that was a wait and a half. And the Justice League crossover that's happening right now, there's 2 parts that you can read now for those of you who have been at the start of that one, and yeah, a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's kind of what's happening this week. Now, I did title this something for a reason, and it is basically Diamond out in these streets committing fraud. And that seems to be the general consensus. I know that there will be some kind of trial proceedings to figure out what's happening here. But for those of you who don't know who Diamond is, or those of you who don't know the update on everything, let's kind of give a little recap. So Diamond, as of 2020, was the comic industry's only single issue distributor. They truly had a monopoly on the game, and then COVID happened. And during the midst of COVID, Diamond shut down. In doing so, it kind of spurred DC Comics to, from what I've heard, escalate their search for a new distributor, because their contract had been up for a while, I believe, and they've sort of been operating on a handshake deal, and kind of seeking if there was other options. So they went out and made some other options. The only one of that survives right now is Lunar. But after DC left, Diamond, Marvel ended up getting a deal with Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House, to their end, converted one of their storage warehouses to deal strictly with single issue comics. That where all single issue comics from Marvel come from. They soon added IDW and Dark Horse to their stables. They are slowly possibly going to be adding some more, including Distillery this June. And they bought Boom straight up. So Boom Studios have been, their comics have been coming out through Penguin now officially for about a month. And while all of these companies were moving away, and Lunar was taking some companies too, Image most notably, Diamond ended up in not so good a space. I remember around fall-ish last year when there was a comics retailer who noted that he hadn't really been anything from Abrams and Hachette, essentially. And it was soon revealed that, well, Diamond kind of owed Hachette a bunch of money, and so Hachette was not sending things to Diamond anymore. This was sort of like kind of a hush-hush thing that was happening, but what a few people don't remember is last year, Hachette had announced at San Diego Comic-Con that they were getting into single issues. They're going to start publishing single issues, and they were going to do so with a few sort of heavier creative names. And you'll notice that none of those came out, and that's because the distributor that they were planning to go with to get these out there was no longer giving them any problems. Now, at the time, a whole bunch of people chalked it up to just like, oh, the payments here, payments there, tap it. Sorry, that came out of nowhere. I would have hit the mute button. Oh my goodness. Well, shortly after that, you kind of hear some rumblings here and there, and then by the time you get to January, you get the full bankruptcy announcement. And that, Diamond owed people some money. Things got pretty wild from there fairly immediately. Image immediately severed ties, and basically whatever was in transit to Diamond were the last books that they would get to distribute. So some people were panicking to get their Image books moved over to Lunar as quickly as possible. There was some issues with Marvel getting to folks one week, and in the end, what seemingly happened was Diamond had to work out a deal with them to keep getting products, like Marvel especially. And like, if they can't get Marvel to people, even on their wholesale deal, like that's another problem entirely. And then a whole bunch of publishers started still looking for places, though with a lot more haste now that Diamond had announced their bankruptcy. And then proceedings went underway. And an outfit named Alliance Entertainment ended up with the highest bid. Now, that sort of like sense of calm was fairly short-lived, unfortunately, because why can't I find this? All right, cool. Because in short order, Diamond was like, "Ooh, TC's backsies. We actually want to go with Universal," and I forget the other party that is did a co-bid for Diamond, and for the sounds of it, it's because it would be a better deal for a lot of the publishers that were owed money. But that did not end up shaking out. Alliance ended up suing Diamond to get their original bid accepted. That bid was accepted, and then a little while after that, a little while after that, Alliance just full on pulled their bid, and are citing fraud from Diamond. So actually, I've got a full timeline here. It's like sort of a rough notes of, or quick notes of stuff that happened. So March 25th, despite Universal's stalking horse bid, Alliance Entertainment wins the auction for Diamond's assets. A day later, Image Comics challenged the sale due to conflicts with their distributor agreements. So Image, the clauses that they have did not allow another entity to take over whatever existing contracts existed. So they were looking to challenge in order to, I'm guessing, to sort of like void those contracts that they would essentially probably have to self-distributing or distributing again to Diamond, even in a weakened state when they're owed money. April 7th, Alliance sues Diamond after Diamond tries to change the winning bidder to Universal, claiming their overall deal is better. On April 11th, the judge upheld Alliance as the winner of the auction, and almost a week later, on April 17th, Diamond revealed to Alliance that despite previous assurances, their contract with Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering and everything else that Wizards of the Coast does had been canceled. Now, this is the big fraud point. Throughout the conversation, Diamond neglected to mention that Wizards of the Coast had intended to pull Diamond's ability to distribute Magic cards at the end of December. They were given 90 days of grace basically as all of this happened, and that was actually extended to tomorrow, April 30th. And during this process, Diamond was assuring bidders, basically, or at least the representatives of Diamond were assuring bidders that Wizards of the Coast would be still distributed by Alliance Games, different entity than Alliance Entertainment. Alliance Games is Diamond's gaming distributor. It has since come out that Wizards of the Coast accounted for 25% of Alliance sales, and without that chunk of money, the whatever deal offered obviously is not great. So get that call on April 21st where Alliance Entertainment is or a conference call, Wizards revealed that Diamond had been hiding. April 17th, the Diamond reveals to Alliance that despite previous assurances, their contract with Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering had been canceled. Now, at the time, the Diamond reps were saying, like, we are absolutely shocked. We had no idea something like this could happen. This is catching us really off guard. And a few days later, on April 21st, a conference call with Wizards revealed that Diamond had been hiding this information since December, that it would no longer be able to distribute a Wizard of the Coast product coming soon. And as Alliance noted in their very detailed suit claiming fraud on Diamond's part, that during this conference call, instead of pretending as though they had before, like, well, we'd never heard of something like this before, like this completely blindsided us. During the call with Wizards of the Coast, Diamond reps not refute that Wizards of the Coast said they were originally going to terminate their agreement at the end of December and did extend it till April 30th. So on April 22nd, a day later, Diamond releases a report with liabilities totaling $7 million higher, about 10% higher than previously claimed, with more fees in the pipeline. 3 days later, April 25th, Alliance terminates their purchase agreement. And on April 28th, a trustee moved to convert the bankruptcy that's happening now from a Chapter 11 to a Chapter 7, which just means straight up liquidation. Things stop operating and all the assets are just liquidated. Because Diamond had not filed the required paperwork since January. April 29th, Diamond sends out an email saying the mistake that the bankruptcy changing from Chapter 11 to Chapter 7 is a mistake, sort of like a procedural thing that automatically kicks off when certain things aren't hit. And because of Alliance terminating their purchase agreement, this is what happens, but they are moving forward to keep it as a Chapter 11. But they say that this is unfortunate, but that this mistake is unfortunate but unavoidable, and that they'll be fixing it soon. They apologize for any concerns. And on the same day, that's today, actually both of these came out today, Alliance announced that the suit was yesterday, honestly. But today, Alliance is officially suing Diamond as a result of fraud over Wizards of the Coast has been saying, and to have Alliance's $8.5 million that they put in as a deposit returned to them, in addition to probably court fees and whatnot. So a bit of a show, and Diamond being Diamond, honestly, they've been running rough for quite some time now, and honestly, it's not as though they're going to get any better. It's a lot of problems at this point. Do they have a buyer? They say they have an interested party that wants to try and make a go of this, but did they know about the Wizards of the Coast thing? Now, if this buyer is Universal, Universal does have good ties with Wizards of the Coast and still does distribute the Wizards of the Coast product. So this could be more of a buying a foothold in the States, as they've wanted to do for a long time, that they could so more of their comic distribution happening in the States and other gaming stuff in the States as well. This would also, if they do go through with the purchase, probably get them Diamond DK, which gives them a hold over there. I've heard from Universal folks who've talked about how a lot of European stores and stores in Asia and Africa even order from Universal because Universal's shipping to them is cheaper than it would be from Lunar and from other places too. So having an outpost over on that side of the world would seemingly help out a few things in terms of what they do. Plus, the Diamond UK branch was profitable. So, probably just a good call in that case. But of course, a lot of things have been up in the air because of tariffs and whatnot. So it's all bananas. Games costs have gone up significantly. Toys costs have gone up significantly. There's like a lot of things happening. And it's bananas. But at the end of the day, the thing you need to know, Diamond, are in a heck of a lot of trouble. We will see what kind of shakes loose from here. If another bidder does come through, if a purchase is made, if things will continue, or if Diamond will just disappear into a pile of smoke, which could be interesting, thus ending the Diamond Age of comics as we know it. All right, I don't have a lot else to talk about this week. I am beat. The last little while has been a lot and a little stressful, I would say, too. This morning was bad news bears. Something was going wrong with me. My heart was going wild, or at least my pulse was going wild. Like my tracker for active hours, I usually have to struggle for active minutes. And like today I'm at triple what I usually do. And it seemed to be because of like different stresses and whatnot that happened to me today. Honestly, too, I bent over to plug in this computer and this like jolt of pain just like cascaded the side of my body here. And so I am not really up to doing like a proper one of these like I really wanted to. That will happen on the next one. I want to have a little bit of graphics. I want to have a little bit more of a format for you folks. And that will be happening at some point in May, hopefully mid-May, and we'll go from there. But I definitely wanted to tell you folks about Free Comic Book Day coming up. I definitely wanted to keep you all updated onto the heckin' wildness that is Diamond. Some quick stuff. The newest volume of Saga is in stores tomorrow. So for those of you who've been waiting, I would say patiently, but I know several of you who have not been very patient. I understand that you wanted the next volume as soon as possible, but they didn't put it out until today or tomorrow. And you know what? It's here now, so it's all gonna be good. And tomorrow, Bad Idea is returning. You might know Bad Idea as a company that we were exclusively distributing here in Edmonton. Now they've actually opened up their distribution plan, and they are being distributed through Lunar and Universal. Getting their books to every store that wishes to have copies. I'm very excited about this one. It's a little $2 preview, 0 issue of Planet Death. As it says back here, blockbuster screenwriter Derek Kolstad, creator and writer of the internationally acclaimed box office dominating motion picture franchise John Wick, and New York Times bestselling writer Robert Venditti are combining their talents with visionary artist Thomas Gorillo to deliver Planet Death. Now I'm going to show you some tears because they've been showing off some interiors. Art in this is absolutely gorgeous, as so much time is spent on Bad Idea books. They do not operate on deadline. They make sure that the books are going to be well in hand before folks are for when things are solicited. So I know they've had a few latest things. It's mostly been due to printing troubles, but they do amazing books. I'm always really excited to get them into people's hands, and this is no different. I'll be talking about some other book that they do on various social media platforms later this week, but I do want to tell you about Planet Death, just because just showing you and being like, also pretty, also written by these guys, doesn't tell you much. So, millions of miles from home, hundreds of ships descend into the stormy atmosphere of a hostile frozen world. On board, an army of resolute men and women brace for the coming assault. They are an invasion force on an impossible mission: destroy the devastating enemy weapon garrisoned below. Corporal Scott and his battalion are in the vanguard, but the human faces are no match for their brutal alien adversaries. Scott's battalion is dead within moments. He is the lone survivor. The landing force annihilated, the battle is lost. Against overwhelming odds, Scott dares the unthinkable. Cross behind enemy lines, survive the lethal landscape, evade capture by ruthless enemies, resist natural predators, face human deserters, and finish the mission single-handedly. Locked in his suit of a full combat battle armor, sustained only by what he can carry and driven by Earth's wrath, Scott must do by himself what an entire army couldn't: destroy the weapon. Return home. So it is essentially John Wick in space, friends, and that's what we got for you. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be a great time. I'm very excited for Free Comic Book Day, and I always come out of it so charged up. And speaking of, last weekend was a local independent bookstore day, and indie bookstores across the world were celebrating. In Edmonton, for the second year in a row, we've done a mini book passport that most, if not all, of the independent bookstores in Edmonton took part in. And you got to go around to all the different places in the city, get some stats, get to learn about the new bookstores and some of the older bookstores that you never knew existed. Because a lot of what we've heard throughout all of this is that folks were discovering places. And my goodness, was it always so heartening to hear there's a few people who really did say that out of all the places, they felt like they connected with this one the most because of how we have like a different curated product, how we have a different selection than a lot of your more typical stuff, and how we have things separated out by genre, like a regular bookstore. And there was 2 other stores that took part in this too. And one of the best things about Edmonton is all of the comic book stores, all the independent bookstores, they have a different vibe, they have a different flavor, and there's something out there for everybody. So having this event where everyone could kind of like essentially taste all the different bookstores to make it weird was really cool. And having all of these great faces come in and having them discover some new favorites that they never knew they had before. Such a great weekend, but I am absolutely exhausted from it, and my body is trying to tell me to calm down, but I can't until after Free Comic Book Day. So with your help, I'm going to get through to the end of the other side. I'm going to wrap things up here on this show. I want to thank you for watching, especially on a game day. I know viewership is always a bit soggier when the Oilers are playing, especially in the playoffs. So thank you all for being here and checking things out, whether you're here live or whether you're here watching on delay. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope you know that as you are always here for us, we are always here for you, and we want you to know that you have our support. And if you ever just need to kind of like vent or talk about some stuff, we are generally pretty available unless like something wild's happening in the store. All right, so thank you all for watching. I will talk to you all again very soon. Until next time.